A very warm welcome to all of you. Today we are going to study the new information age. Now I would like to start this lecture with stating that this new information age, I hope you can understand that we are talking about a time period. And the time period is not very historically marked. Like you can say that when it started and when did it develop itself and how long will it last. We cannot mark it like that because it is growing with time and it is developing, and as I told you that it is not properly marked, or it is not cannot be demarcated by its properties, features, and that is the most significant characteristics of this age, that it is a very confusing time that we are living in. Why do I say a confusing time? Because the most significant part of this age is it is marked with a lot of confusions and conflicts, contradictions, risks, uncertainties. That is the era which has its benefits, mostly benefits, but also these are the marked characteristics which is needless to discuss whether it is good or whether it is bad, because that is it. That is the time that we are living in. Now, you can say that when did this time start? It started, we can say that when this conflict or the crisis of the time emerged. Now, it started with a great financial crisis, because if we are talking about the time, then we cannot, demarcate politics, economics like that. But as economics at this in the 21st century is the main criteria which marks our identity, which marks our politics, which marks our values. So you can say that this age started, with its confusion and with its conflicts when it witnessed a great financial crisis. Now this, gave rise to a great division of labor, which, demarcated a few labor or few men and women who had the wealth, capital, mostly information. And there were a few laborers who did not have access to this information, and thus not wealth, not power. So this age that I'm exactly talking about, you can understand that it is marked with information. So it is an age where there is a free flow of information, and that what it marks this age. So it is mostly, informational capitalism that we can talk, that I will be specifying when I'm talking about this information age or the new age information. Starting from, as I was talking about, that there was a great division of labor that came out because of this financial crisis. And what about those people who did not have access to this information and communication technologies, and hence they did not have a power to manipulate the flow of information and thus capital and wealth? What did they do? They rekindled the various smaller issues like ethnicity, politics, national divide, and thus also religious fundamentalism. So, this is the marked time that I started this discussion with, that this new information age is nothing but is based on an economy that is capitalist in nature, and that is mostly informational capitalism. That is what is important, that what actually circulates or flow among various social formations and various political formations is nothing but information. And power, whoever is considered to be powerful, is been considered among those who have access for the manipulation of the information that has been circulated around the whole world. Now, this age, you can also demarcate that previously, we had ages where it was either agrarian, that is, it was mostly based on agriculture and, future aspects of agriculture. Then industrialist, the failures and the progress of the, production of an industry. But this age is you cannot mark it with agriculture or industry, but rather with the information. Now, mostly, how does this information flow among the social formations or among the wider nations? That is mostly through internet, because internet is the one thing, whose disruption, they just did a revolution, what we called as the information revolution, where the territorial boundaries that the previous mass media or the communication systems had, that it catered to a specific mass which were bounded by territorial boundaries, which were bounded by specific cultural boundaries. But now, as the information flows across nations, so you can say that it does not put an effort or does not recognize the traditional means or the traditional bindings that the mass media always had, and it has been supported. The informational flow has been supported through internet, and it also helps in the propagation and the successful working of globalization that we are talking about. Through this, what happens is there emerges a networked society. That every society, and this is not a kind of society that you can say that it is not marked by a particular place, particular gender, or particular location, particular customs, traditions, beliefs, values, but it is a kind of a network that is coming into being, and those people or those corporations that generally have something to contribute to this network, they are the main important active agents of this information flow, and they are the active agents of this new age information or new information age. So another thing that we have come to know, that one is informational capitalism, that is that gave rise to a new economy. And the second is we live in a networked society, and the network that is most importantly is coming into being. That whether the previously what happened, previously there was a traditional vertical structure of power, like you can understand that there was bureaucratic, like there used to be a source of power, and they used to take the decisive factors, and they used to decide what will be the next policies and how it will be formulated, how it will change the lives of the people. But in this network society, this vertical social formations or the centers of power are being completely disrupted, and that gives rise to a horizontal structure of power. That is, there are multiple nodal points from which the whole entire power structure has been operated, and that is mostly done through the business communities, that is mostly done through the media conglomerates, and also the larger political scenario, the political powers that operates through this network society. Now you can I give you a small example that previously, within a business community, what the most important thing that was in focus were the the financial accounting, like how the accounts will be made, who are the persons who will be doing the specific kind of jobs. Now the entire orientation of a business community or a business group has been shifted to project based. Now whatever the main intention, the main primary focus of a business conglomerate is right now is a particular project, and we have to complete this project, and for that project, if we need every kind of productive tools can be hired from the entire geographical location. You don't need a specific technical specialty to be covering from a particular geographical area. If you need someone who is very good at speaking, then you can get it from Tokyo, you can get it from Indonesia, whatever. If for that particular project, if something is needed, required, that can be procured through the entire mass of people that have contribution to that network. So the network, or the flow of information and the flow of capital that is occurring through that network, that becomes the most significant operation, or the most significant element in the networked society. So through internet, and or now there has been another revolution in the internet scenario, that is the rapid disruption of the mobile phones, because internet can be accessed through the mobile phones, and that are not at all expensive, that is quite cheap. So it is traversing not only in the urban areas, it is traversing everywhere. Even in country like India, it is going to the most inaccessible rural parts. So if they are required for any particular project or any particular aim that is needed to be served at, then they are also being included into that network society. So all in a nutshell that I can talk about is that the new age the new information age, the most significant thing that has occurred, that is a revolution altogether, that is a information revolution, and this flow of information through internet have created a networked society. So the mode of business, the way we communicate, the way we think, the way we call or refer ourselves or identify ourselves to be part of something, or we accept it as our perceived reality, that everything has changed, because now we are not bounded into any particular place or into a particular territory, and there is a global conglomeration of the shrinked space that has led to us into a global village. Rather, every part of the world has been connected through some networks, and we are part of that network society. So the network is the most important thing that this age promises, and that has been possible because of the vast accessibility of internet and the massive revolution of the information and communication technologies. Now, another important thing that this new information age has brought up, as you can understand, that it has changed our culture. If it changes the way we communicate, because culture has been very much defined by the way we communicate, right? What are the means of communication, like we sing, like we express. Now, if these modes of expression are changed, then it is definitely that our identity and our identity through culture has to be changed. Now, all that is coming into being is firstly, the most important thing that has been changed by this networked society and the network that has been established or developed by this new information age is our identity. Now, there are both a positive side of this identity, and there is also a negative side, that there are some kinds of identity crises, that are developing because of this networked reality that we are living in. Now, the positive side that we can actually talk about is that, as I told you, that previously we were, hooked up into some particular territory, and our perceived real space, that is that this is right, this is not right. There are some traditional values that that were very specific to our culture. The real space that you're living in, the values, the culture, everything you imbibe from the surrounding reality that you're living in. Now, what happens in this networked society is, now these territorial boundaries are not there. So whatever happens, you're actually cannot hook to any particular territorial real space. So therefore, no specific rooted values or cultures actually get hooked to your mind. You feel that a Chinese friend of yours who you really regularly interact with, their culture, you somehow seem or feel that it can be my culture too. So, you start negotiating with that culture. So that what happens is whenever you are coming back from that world, from that internet world, and you're actually interact with the people's person to person, face to face, then the problem starts. A kind of cultural alienation starts, it develops within the minds of the individuals, and most importantly among the youngsters right now, who, believe that virtual world to be their reality. Whenever a new technology comes to our lives, and you can understand that that technology may not have been originated in your culture, in your land. It has come up from the other culture and other territorial land to you. But what happens is we consider, or we take into notice about how it looks, how does it operate, and what are its cool features. This happens with the technological determinism, is that we get accustomed to that technology whenever it comes to us, with the virtual world, with that the media compels us to believe in, and through internet we get to we are more attracted with its behavioral patterns, that how to use it, how to who has it and who hasn't. So all this external behavior patterns that mostly affect us, rather than we are eager to know about its formation, where is it produced, how different is the cultural connotations does it have with our culture, etc. and etc. So this new information age is marked by another feature also, that it gives rise to a virtual reality which we perceive to be as the a real reality, and with that develops an crisis of identity, and which is very, very much prevalent among the youngsters or the mostly internet users. And there is also another kind of identity crisis that has been developing because of this vast internet usage and the shrinking of space and time, because you can understand that the relation between the space and the time is been disturbed or deteriorated completely. The same thing is been viewed, is been experienced by multinodal points from maybe multiple junctures at the same time from different areas of the world. Maybe it is 12 o'clock noon, and a same movie or a same technological invention, say for example, as I told you, a new mobile phone or a new mobile technology is been viewed from across the different countries. So their experience are not at all determined by their the culture of that country by any means. The same experience has been experienced by an Indian student at the same time, maybe a slightly differently, but at the same time with a different space. So the relationship between the space and the time has been completely differentiated, which creates a kind of alienation among the masses that use this information age or live in this networked society. Another thing is that it, as you can understand, that there is one single culture, that is the global culture that is ruling the world, and for this, it has to communicate. So that has to be one single language or one single culture that will, connect the entire people from this or from all parts of the world. And for that, that is a heterogeneous global culture that is swallowing the small homogeneous local cultures of that is prevalent mostly in a diverse cultural country like India. I am sure that in a social networking site, for example, say Facebook, we are really very much interested to know about the various cultural practices of a distinct tribe in a state like Arunachal Pradesh, because if it has something to contribute to this capitalist economy, to some of the business conglomerates of this networked society, then probably we will be interested in. But otherwise, how do they worship is barely important or significant right now. So what is happening, even those tribes, they are also coming under the accessibility of this global culture. So they do not find any need to practice their traditional cultural beliefs. So they are forgetting their own traditional culture. Say they are accepting this global culture. So it is important to know how to write an SMS rather than to, know the oral histories or the cultural traditions from their forefathers. So this is also a marked identity of this new information age, where there is a massive cultural flow, and only the flow of information is the main thing that determines culture, society, or the economic behavioral patterns of the all the individuals. That it is the global culture, a single homogeneous global culture. It actually is swallowing all the small diverse cultures that is scattered all over the world. This information capitalist society have given rise to a space where this space is being created by the users of this internet and information and communication technology, where they choose the contents, they interact among themselves, they take part in the political decisions, and thereby somewhat decide the fate of the political power that will be coming to rule them, or if you are uneasy with the word called rule, at least will shape their political lives. Now, these are, you can say that these are the social networking sites where people choose the contents, they discuss among themselves, interact, and also interact and discuss about who will be the next political power to be deciding factors of the state that they live in. Now, this is always not a neutral space, of course. It has been decided over by the political interests of the business interests of both the business conglomerates and also the media houses or the media business tycoons. But yet, that is that is almost a kind of a free interaction, or that is a kind of participatory culture that decides the political fate of any country in this world. Now, this has given rise to a mass self-communication. That is, mass communication means they connect with the global mass or the global citizen in these global networks that I previously talked about. And it is also a self-communication because they are the ones who select the content, who manipulate them, and they interact among whom they will interact. That is also chosen by this people. So this you can understand that this is not the democracy of the parties, but the democracy of the citizens that this new information age has promised. Though it is not yet too much successful, it also has its critics and its own drawbacks. But yet this is a free participatory culture, or a convergence culture that you can see, where people all over the world, they have come in, they have developed their own space of interaction, and that is somehow it also puts a threat to the repressive regulatory policies of the state, because the state sometimes cannot understand that how to control this audience. You can always find that with this whenever something is written against the state in the social media sites, there are actions taken, because our cyber laws has been reconstructed or reconstituted according to that. But how long that repressive policy is successful in this cyber world or this networked society that we are talking about is a much question to discuss. Because this is a kind of democracy that is which is nascent yet, but still it is in present, and it has huge political influences on deciding who will be the next political power to be coming in any state in this world. This new age information also gives rise to a gender gap or a gender divide, because this all communication revolution that has taken place is sometimes very male, that is not completely accessible by women, because in rural areas you can understand that which are disturbed by political violations, political disturbances, and most importantly the language of the internet is English, and which is not at all sometimes very well understood by the rural poor woman, because they are very much domesticated, and sometimes they do not have the access to computer literacy, English, and or the other technical knowledge that is required to access this information and technology devices and get into this information age that we are all talking about. So the government is trying hard to, and the NGOs, they have taken right now the public private partnership. We call it famously as PPP model, in order to include the ICTs in the development schemes, so that every corners of the world, they are normally do not fall prey to this digital divide, that who are, have the knowledge of this digital world and who do not have, who do not access to internet, who cannot use computers. So it is the government is really working hard to include in its development model, so that every nook and corners of the people of this world, they take part in this new information age, and a convergence culture that emerges, which gives rise to a new democracy.